starting with growing and shrinking eggs. So what you will need is you'll need 2 eggs. Well, I have 3. This is my control egg, so you can see what they look like when they're not doing the things. So what you'll need some vinegar, and you'll need some corn syrup, but you only need the corn syrup later on. This is a lab that you're going to be kind of watching over the next few days, and I'll ask you to tomorrow and Thursday what you guys have kind of noticed as like a quick little update. But so these are the finished eggs, and I'll talk about them because this takes a few days. I wanted to show you what your eggs will turn out like. But what you're going to start with, you're going to take your eggs and put 2 of them into just like a little cup that's full of vinegar. That's okay. That's really optional. I'll show you what mine does so you get the, if you don't have some of the materials. You can take observations on what I have, and you can always do it again some other time when you have materials. So it's okay. Okay, so this is our egg, our standard chicken egg. Got this from my kitchen. What are some observations you have about this egg just to start out? Feel free to put it in the
same color as my egg.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I missed it.
It's the same color as my egg.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So this color, yeah, it's round. Will standard syrup work? It might work, honestly, and that's always a good question. We can ask questions and then we can try new things and expand the experiment. So I recommend trying it after you've done the vinegar step. So yes, the other ones look correct. Yes, the other ones are not hard like this one. This one's hard because it has the hard outside. And the hard outside is made of calcium carbonate, which like helps make it hard, and like why you have to like crack an egg when you are making eggs. So this egg, oh, look at it. Oh, it's like squishy. Do you notice anything else? Here, I'll put it.
It looks like a rubber ball.
It does. Ugh. It looks sticky. It's actually not that sticky. It just kind of looks like that because there's still some leftover vinegar on it. But it actually it's a little bigger than this egg we started with. You can kind of see it when they're right next to each other. It's just a little bit bigger and really squishy. So that's because when you're, this egg soaked in vinegar for 24 hours, it just sat there all night. And there inside the vinegar, there's acetic acid, but only a little bit. It's mostly water in the vinegar. But it broke down the hard shell on the standard egg. So then we're left with this kind of rubbery egg, really kind of funky, and it grew. Do you have any ideas of why it grew? Like, why did it get bigger? It's also okay if you aren't sure. Well, I'll give you a little hint. I'll tell you what's going on. So because the egg is like rubbery and the hard part's not there, what's left is, did it absorb the vinegar? That's a great hypothesis. And it partially did. So what's left on this egg and why it's not just like you cracked an egg open, it didn't went since the hard part's gone. We're left with a semi-permeable membrane. So water from the vinegar can flow in and out of the egg, or water from the egg can flow in and out. But typically, when things are placed together in water, they want to create a stable amount of water on both the inside and the outside of the egg. So since there was lots and lots of water on the outside of the egg with the vinegar, it did go into the egg and make it bigger. So isn't that kind of funky? And as I'm rubbing it, it's like getting all kind of gross. So I'm gonna put that down. Okay, so that's what's gonna happen when you leave your egg in vinegar for 24 hours. That's what we're hoping is gonna happen. Something could change, we're not sure. It's okay if you don't have corn syrup. This next part is optional and we can make observations on my egg right here. So after this egg originally sat in vinegar just like this one. It got all big and it got all squishy. And but now, look, some of you made some really good observations earlier. Someone said it looked deflated. Like, look at that. So this one sat in the corn syrup. Yeah, you, Gabia. It sat in the corn syrup for another 24 hours. Like, ooh, look, I can squish it. So, okay, I want to hear your thoughts on either observations about the egg, like more you have, or ideas of why it's like that. Here's the original egg for reference. Yeah, it is thicker. So what could the corn syrup being thicker mean? Like, what could that do? It weakens the egg. That's a really good hypothesis. Does anyone else have any ideas? Wow, what a great thought, Gabia. Yes, okay, so absorbed differently. Yes, so similarly to how, yes, the shell did come off because it sat in the vinegar for a day before it was in the corn syrup. So that's why the shell also came off. But that's important because we need it to just have that semi-permeable membrane. And so similarly to how we talked about how the vinegar egg absorbed the water from the vinegar because there was more water on the outside of the egg. Because it was all swollen from that water, when you put it in the corn syrup, there's more water inside of the egg. So then the water goes outside of it and the corn syrup gets more liquidy, and the egg ends up being really deflated. So yeah, that's essentially the experiment. And so you'll be following it over the next few days. So you can see what happens. I really encourage you to take notes on like what's happening when the egg is first put into the vinegar versus when it's at the end of the 24 hours. And then if you have any kind of syrup, what happens to the syrup maybe, or even trying different types of things. Like what other liquids could you put the vinegar egg in, and see what happens. That's what science is. It's all about asking questions and furthering that curiosity. Yeah, and then if you put both your eggs in the vinegar at the same time, you can compare them afterwards, kind of like what we did here. Yeah, dishwashing soap. I don't know what would happen with dishwashing soap. That's a really good question. I would love to see you try that and then tell me about it later this week. Amazing. Does anyone have any questions?
How do you do the one where you shrink it again?
Absolutely. So, so you're going to start with both your eggs in vinegar for 24 hours. And then to get the egg to shrink, after that 24 hours, you place it, well, I placed mine in corn syrup for 24 hours. So this egg has been kind of going through it for like 48 hours. And yeah, so I just had it wait in the different materials. But if you don't have corn syrup, it's okay because you can try other things to see what would happen. Yeah. Yeah, so just a reminder, you can only get it to grow or shrink if it's only this semi-permeable membrane. And to do that, you have to soak it in vinegar first to remove the hard shell. But I'm very excited to see what you all do.
I'm gonna put one of my eggs in alcohol.
Whoa. Yeah, and make sure to write it in your lab notebook, because now, since you're trying different things, you're gonna have different observations than even what I have here. And that'll be super cool. Awesome. Okay, Gabia, are you interested in the balloon lab now?
Yeah.
Amazing.
They're asking if they should do the experiments now.
Oh yeah, if you can, so for most of them, you can follow along and do the experiments with people. This one, like, since it takes a while, right now you can get your eggs in your vinegar. Yeah, and then for the rest of them, you can just follow along as they go.